I can't apologize enough for you guys being taken away from me, but I was trying to explain to Chantel I needed help, and I was 19 years old, but things didn't show up how I wanted them to.
I mean, I think there's a lot of like logic here that's really missing because according to the paperwork, we we were left in the care of Calvin, and you were nowhere to be found. So it sounds like you were getting your education and everything together. So you made a choice for you, left
Oh,
us in the care of Calvin.
you're talking about the time I had to go into the mental health unit?
Yeah. Can you explain that? Maybe I can
Not,
understand you better. And that's what I'm here for, is just to understand you better.
well, I'm bipolar, and I just was upset. I didn't know what to do.
What were you upset about?
I can't quite remember right now.
Something got you upset, and then you left us in the care of our father, our biological father. Um, I do have a report saying that um, Child Protective Services was called when Isaac was about 2 years old for wandering out the house, and they had to call your grand or your mom and dad to come get him. Do you remember with that?
No, I don't remember that at all.
How do you feel about the disconnect that you have with your children?
I feel terrible. That's what I was thinking about the obit. Should I put and I leave my survivors dancing over my grave?
Is that comforting to you to feel that way?
I that's why I needed.
That your kids would be in joy because you died? Do you feel that way? Do you feel that to be true?
I'm not quite sure. That's why I'm talking to you about it.
Oh,
But why does our opinion on being in an obituary, why does that decision matter the most to you versus I'm 40, 2 years old? Like, there's a lot of decisions that could have been made within the last 20 years between us. But an obituary seems the most appropriate conversation to talk about. Like, or this. Is it because you had such a, maybe, excuse my word, like fucked up childhood that you really don't know how to navigate all the kids that you had in the system? Because I just don't think it's appropriate for you not to have a relationship and then call me and be like, hey, what do I put you in the obituary as? Like, that's not a fun conversation to have. Like, are you missing the connection of how hurtful that is to hear that from a person who went off, like you said, I went to nursing or to school for a CNA. I was working here. You were working there. You were taking care of yourself. There's no evidence of you taking care of your kids. And so if we fast forward to the me making a decision if I want to be an obituary or not, I wasn't in your decision making in 1986. So why consider this now? Why is it important now?
I'm not sure.
what are you sure of? So you understand that when we're talking about when I talk about me and my sister's struggles as of not having our, well, I'll just our mother, Rebecca, there, not there. And when we talk about when we talk about, like why wasn't she there or why is she avoiding real conversations? And she has a deflection of the responsibility, which means is when we talk about with her, hey, like, at what point was it where you started changing your mind about your kids? That doesn't mean that I need to create space for her abuse and her
No,
emotional struggles,
no,
and using them as an excuse for us to be like, to consider her, because in all actuality, and I mean this with all respect, we do not have to, we are not Rebecca's friends. We are her children. We do not have to make space and consideration for an adult. We weren't taken away. We were abandoned. And when you speak of a relationship, we need to have those.
no,
We hold on 1 second and then you can speak. When we speak of a relationship, when we talk about a relationship, we use words that are not deflective. We use conversations that are validating the experience as her children have. We, like I said before, we're not her friends. We are her children. How can we, how can we get through the barrier to forgiveness when we are continuously focusing on the people who she needs to forgive, which is Kelvin and our grandparents? That's not our responsibility. I can't keep having that conversation about her past because we're going back. We're creating this barrier still. And
but
we can't, and me or Elnora can't help her with that.
When did you start realizing you didn't have a relationship with her?
when I was a little girl, I would ask her for hugs and stuff. She wasn't a very hugging mom. Getting ready to abuse me, I would stand next to her wanting to tell her, but she was always too busy at the store making money. Her big thing was, what will the people think that are customers? We don't want anyone to know about this.
Did she stop it?
No, I got pregnant when I was 17 and I had her when I was 18. Um, they they drove me out of town because they didn't want anyone to know that I was pregnant.
Rita abusive to you? Sounds like it. I don't know if she was, but I'm trying to understand the disconnect between mother and daughter, and you have daughters that you're disconnected with.
I
Did she
guess
abuse you?
just by omission of affection,
Okay, so why were you sent to the group home
because my
before you
parents
were
wanted me.
pregnant?
No, I was first beginning to be pregnant, and when I stayed at this orchard place for children, they had me do a UA, which found out I was pregnant. So then they shipped me off to Dubuque, Iowa.
So were
Well,
you
I was told that the first issue, because I guess Rita had wrote a letter to one of her sisters or something and was complaining about your behavior, and that you were attracted to a school teacher and you had sex with your school teacher and you found out you were pregnant. And when you found out, you tried to take a whole bunch of pills. And then because of you taking all those pills and something else happened, you lost the pregnancy, and then they sent you to a group home because of your behavior. Is that correct?
Not at all. Not in the least.
so what
But there
happened to
was
the
a,
pregnancy?
I had Isaac.
Wait, but you got sent to a group home first, met our dad because he was your counselor, and then you got pregnant, correct?
Right.
So then why were you sent to the group home at first?
Because I was staying at Orchard Place and they made me take a pregnancy test and they found out that I was pregnant and my parents wanted to ship me out of town because what would the customs
But you
do?
hadn't met Isaac's father at that time.
I can't remember what year it was, but I went to the South Central Juvenile Care Center where Kelvin was my counselor
So
and he
when
would
you
visit
went
me.
there, before you met Calvin, why were you being sent to that group home before you met Calvin?
So my parents didn't want to deal with me anymore. I had trouble sleeping at night. Mom just wanted me off her hands.
Because you couldn't go to sleep?
I guess that got on her nerves that I couldn't sleep at night. I would stay awake because I was afraid that my brothers were going to get me. I had our family dog, Honey, who's uh, a, a Hungarian Vizsla, come lay with me with a heated blanket and stuff to help protect me if one of my brothers would come into the room at night.
Okay, so now we are at the group home where you meet Isaac's, our father, right? So we're here.
Mhm.
How did your relationship start with Calvin? You're underage,
And
he's your counselor, and then you meet him.
he was flirty with me, and I took it as a compliment.
Okay.
I guess one of the reasons, not that this makes any sense, but one of the reasons why I was attracted to black men is because I didn't want anybody that looks like my brothers.
That's understandable. So then you fell in love with him, right? Or no?
Yes,
And you were having conjugal visits in a group home, basically?
yes. He would come pick me up at high school, Lincoln High. He'd pick me up during lunchtime in study hall, and we would go to Easter Lake and we'd have sex in the car.
And so you were out of the group home by then.
I hadn't been to the group home yet.
So then how did you
At
meet
that
our dad?
time, at that time, I stayed at Orchard Place for Children.
So how did you meet Calvin then? Because I'm confused.
I met him at the South Central Juvenile Care Center when I was 16.
But you were saying he was picking you up from high school. How are you able to? So are you saying that you met him at the juvenile place and then you went to another juvenile place and he basically followed you there to the other one? You guys
Right.
continued on a relationship. Okay. Okay. So then you found out you were pregnant with Isaac. Tell me about that experience. Your first pregnancy.
Well, I was happy. I didn't like it that my parents made me go to Dubuque, though. Like,
So you came back pregnant from this place that was supposed to help you. And then you told your parents and you're 17 years old. And what did they say?
they didn't want anything to do with me. They just wanted me out of town. Again,
Did you graduate from high school?
I got my GED.
Hmm.
Okay. So the home that you went to while you were pregnant with Isaac is to basically give up your kid. Is that the like goal of this home?
Right. But I fought it. My parents didn't like that very much.
Okay. And so you were pregnant, and so you had to stay into the home until you after you had the baby? Like, what is the home? I guess I'm kind of trying to imagine what this home was like and what were the expectations of you.
Well, first of all, I liked it because I didn't have to worry about my brothers,
So you
and
felt safe.
I got to do all the cooking while the other girls would do the dishes, which I liked being able to cook. I went to an alternative high school.
So this was a home. This was
Right, Hillcrest.
so then where was Calvin when you were in this home while Isaac was in foster care?
He was still with his wife, and he was in Carlisle.
So you were 16 or 17.
I believe I was still around 17.
When did the abuse start happening with our father?
Probably when I went away to go get mental health.
Do you believe that our dad abused us?
Now looking back, yes, I do. I would breastfeed you guys. Times it was hard for me to breastfeed both of you at the same time. And he would go ahead and offer one of his nipples to make the other kid not cry anymore.
What were you thinking? And made us latch on to a boob with no milk. What was going through your
It
mind?
made I couldn't wait to lay you guys down safely, and I ended up getting in a fight with him. He had that gastro bypass surgery so he could lose weight, and we were fighting.
It's a part of him trying to breastfeed us. I'm still a little stuck right there. So you got into a fight, and was there at any point where you're like, hey, this man's weird, I need to call the police?
I don't know. I put it like this: I kept watch on him pretty heavy.
Okay, so that was the first indication that our dad was ridiculous and a weirdo. So when did things get real weird? Where you left and we got taken?
That must have been when I went to the Lutheran Hospital mental health unit.
And that's where he just full on raped us? And that's how you found out they were taken? We were taken?
Yes,
So what were your emotions?
you guys were my babies. I didn't want any harm coming your way.
So then when did we get taken away?
I'm not exactly sure.